Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Doujinshi, and welcome back to another episode of Hentai Reviews, the only series where we take a few days off because, Jesus Christ, we're stupid. If you want to explain, if you decided like, hey, this looks cool, and then you started binging the episodes, let me first explain. I took a few days off. If you're watching these as they come out, like, oh, I can't wait for the next one. I took a few days off, mostly for the reason that the day that I was supposed to upload, I had horrible stomach pains that later turned into a very uncomfortable bathroom trip. Day number 2, I thought, hey, maybe if I recreate what I did that day, then I can figure out what is going wrong. So, I did everything the exact same way that I did it the last time, which didn't help anything because I don't know what did it. Now I just know that I did it twice. So, yeah, I was in a lot of pain for that day, and then I decided to move on to the next time that it happened, which was my day off, my usual one where I film on Friday, release Saturday. Since I didn't do anything on Friday, I just decided to cut it out. Nothing happened, but I moved on a little bit. I haven't done anything like that since, so at least now I'm going to be okay, even though I'm on the sleep schedule of a very stupid person. So, let's go ahead and get into the review now that I've rambled on long enough and I've given my excuse of the week about why I skipped a few days. So, let's get into it. Today, we are going to be reviewing Amanee Episode 1, even though I put in a different video that I was going to do Kimikasuki Episode 2. I'll do that one later, mostly because this one seemed a little bit more interesting. Now, Amanee Episode 1 is done by our friends over at Pashmina? Pashmina. One word. And I'm white, so forgive the translation, forgive just the overall pronunciations. Running at 25 minutes and 15 seconds long with 12 categories, notable of which are MILF, Virgin, and Uncensored. You're probably thinking, wow, you're missing vanilla when it comes to that sort of thing. Well, this one is one that I watched like a long time ago, and I felt like I needed to look up just for the respect that it was around back when I didn't have this channel. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Main character accidentally walks in on a girl using the bathroom. Always a good start. It turns out that the main character who had walked in on the girl was the aunt of the friend that he was hanging out with to play video games. She's a little bit sexual in nature, where she's usually just like, yeah, I work all the time, but I don't care. There. So it leads to them playing video games, and then it cuts to the nephew getting way too focused on the video game, and the aunt is like, hey, since you've already seen what's downstairs, how about we do something together? He's like, your nephew is like 5 feet away from me, and they're like, he's really focused on the game. And he uses his sick epic gamer skills to block out literally everything that happens. And I gotta respect the man for it. So, exactly what happens. Epic Gamer is too focused on the game to notice that his aunt is starting to go a little crazy with hands and lips with the main character. At 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 4 minutes and 55 seconds is Scene 1. Scene 1 ends leading to the nephew that is asked to go to the store to get a few things, and then obliges, of course, while the other two get a little bit more acquainted, the main character and the aunt, who don't even move to another room. They just start going nuts in their own, in the living room, right in front of this man's PS2. You can do some mean shit in front of, a Sega. You can do some mean shit in front of a Nintendo, but how dare you expose your nudity to a PS2? We have standards in this industry. Number 1, don't fuck in front of the PS2. Number 2, no other rules. Everything is like Assassin's Creed. You are open across the board, except for fucking in front of the PS2, which is a sin. And this Crusader's helmet ain't just for looks. I will find you. So, it leads into Scene 2, which runs from 6 minutes and 35 seconds to 7 minutes and 50 seconds, with a small break lasting about 20 seconds, going to 8 minutes and 10 seconds, and finally ending at 17 minutes and 5 seconds, leading to a combined total of 1 minute and 15 seconds, plus, let's just say over 9 minutes of actual content is in this one spot. And I would be so impressed, so absolutely, ridiculously, over-the-top impressed with how long that had gone on, which is completely ruined by the fact that while the woman was going a little crazy with her, I have finished, she got all her fluids all over the PS2, in which case the PS2 is now fried, and some of us want to go and play our limited edition epic gamer of the day video game, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, or MX vs ATV Off-Road Fury, and some of us are not having a good day. How dare you do this in front of the PS2? You've learned from your mistakes. You fried it, and now you must pay. In which case, they never do. They just leave the PS2 to suffer. Sick. It then cuts to the credits that then continue to roll as it goes by, and then it leads to an after credit scene, which is fairly long, like a third of the entire runtime. So, like, why is this a post-credit scene if it's just like a straight-up bonus episode? But nonetheless, it then cuts to him and the main character and the aunt playing games at his friend's house again. What, you go and buy a new PS2 so you can ruin that too? Well, at least it cuts to Scene 3 of them at 19 minutes and 45 seconds to 24 minutes and 50 seconds. Of which case, it ends in a weird-ass ending. Best way that I can describe it is, when all of his fluids came out and all of hers did, all of her fluids came out. She just decided, hey, everything's escaping. You know, you ever heard that story where a guy finishes and then he farts accidentally? Yeah, this is the exact same thing, only she pees herself right there while they're getting crazy on the toilet, which is a weird... Just because you're close to a toilet doesn't mean you start peeing. Human decency, come on. We may be degenerates, but at least we have pride. Well, that goes ahead and ends this episode right there. I'm pretty sure there's a second episode. If I'm wrong, then I won't make a follow-up to this, because this was a fairly old animation. So let's go ahead and cut to the actual review. So let's go ahead and get to that. 3, 2, 1, go. Thank you very much. Leading into the first one, animation is slightly below average, with a few nicks and cuts there that kind of push it to where it's not exactly the greatest, and definitely doesn't even come off as average. Where there are speed ups that go across the whole thing, the old style to it doesn't really lend well to the heavy lines that are put throughout it, and even some scenes seem a little choppy and reused at certain portions. Not to say the imagery that they're showing isn't good, it's just not fun. Like, every once in a while, it'll take you out of it with the editing that shows up in it. Overall, landing at a 4 out of 10 when it comes to it. So, the characters. Characters are pretty one note. Yeah, they're pretty one note for the fact that it's like horny dude, epic gamer, promiscuous aunt. really there's not a lot to go there, and it leads exactly what you'd think it would lead to, but not even like they're playing into their tropes, it's just tropes. CinemaSin style bell, bing, tropes. Like, it's average. 5 out of 10 when it comes to characters, and what we're all really here for, the plot. So, the plot itself goes on for so long in certain areas that it's so ridiculously admirable for what happens. Even though they don't do a lot, like they don't change up the formula with what they're working with, is essentially just like 2 positions, maybe 3, for the expanse of like 8 minutes. But they get as much camera shots as they can out of those images. Which would be cool if the characters were a little bit better. Maybe you'd get more invested and their actual actions would carry a little bit more. But they just don't all that much. So, I gotta say, I definitely was like, alright, this is great. This material is great through and through. But I never felt like if I came back to this, I would go back to it and then watch the whole thing. It would be very much like if you come back to it to see the plot of the whole thing, you would skip forward really fast to find that scene and then use that time accordingly. So the plot itself runs to 7 out of 10. So, as an overall score, it averages up to a high to just barely below where you can round up, but it's a 5 out of 10. Perfectly average across the board, but if you're here for that one particular scene that you enjoy that comes from the long times it spends in these scenes, then you won't be disappointed. But if you watch the entirety itself, it's like biting into an apple, and then the outside is the crispest part, and then you get into the center of it, and it's pretty mid, like there's no extra flavor to it. It was definitely all being brought out to show off how good the apple is. It's like a very dark red apple, where it tastes good on the outside, the inside starts to deteriorate a little bit. So, overall, that has been my review for today. And I gotta thank each and every one of you for being here. The 57, at least last time I checked, that are here. I enjoy, appreciate, and fucking love every single one of you for watching me do this series and eventually allow me to get better equipment. Like you can see the microphone that I'm working with is a little bit better than my old one. Because my old one I bought at Walmart and is complete garbage because it doesn't even have a pop filter on it or anything that can like function out older or at least further away things. But I'm digressing a little bit. Thank you for everybody who's being here, and hopefully I can make this into something that at least has better production value and better equipment, which may take a bit, but hey, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys aren't going anywhere. Unless you want to, then by all means, go ahead. So, until next time, I have been the Doctor. I'd like to remind you to have a nice day, don't be a dick, there's too many of them, and wash your fucking hands. Like I've said, I'm the Doctor, and I will tell you guys, peace.